Hey, I got a confession. Been losing all momentum. Just because it's easy, but that don't make it better. I wanna dig my hands deep down in the dirt. Take a walk along the street if I'm feeling dessert. All of this convenience just doesn't work for me. I wanna play with fire, let me get hurt. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Oh, I miss the summers with you and never swipe left to right. Ah, snuck in your window, no friend request, no, just spent the night. I had to walk right up to your locker and risk you saying, boy, just don't bother. I know this all just makes me sound ancient, but sons and daughters, that shit was amazing. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Go get your DeLorean. Yo, what you got in that bag? Candy, cigarettes, and a Playboy mag? Man, you used to have to work for that. Wait for me, gotta dial up. Can't call my landline cause it's all tied up. Just bike over then. Oh, oh, oh. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life.
Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. We got our back against the wall, we gotta fight back. I need a theme song, this the right track. I ain't got no cape or no superpowers, just confidence and self-esteem, the world is ours. I believed in me when nobody didn't. This ain't no freestyle, just some facts that's written. Come on, let's hear it for the boy. He bringing pain at the same time, joy. I bob and weave through the crowd, so untouchable. At first they hate, then they loving you. It's a crazy cycle, but I'm going through it. I wish I was lying, that's why I show and prove it. I'm destined to be one of the best to do it. I ain't saying I'm the GOAT, but I'm closer to it. I should get a statue in the front yard. Man, I'm shooting up my stats like a shooting guard. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes. I'll give it to you in 3D or even play by play. I'm your guest announcer, are you here today? Yo, let me get a show of hands if you rockin' with me. Ain't no stopping us now, we bout to bounce quickly. I'm about to start a movement, put your fist up. Everything all black from the wrist up, yeah. Leather gloves, no prints, what? we about to dip, deep cut. Yeah, now bring it back like a boomerang. Who that man, do that thing, coming through like Buddha Bang. Setting booby traps for girls and goofy cats. Hog tied and handcuffed through in the back. Zip locked and sealed up and tossed away. I don't know about your future, but it's bad today. I'm a prophet and a guru and the rap police. You in the belly of the beats, masterpiece. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. Look at me, take a picture, it'll last longer. The mirror on the wall say I'm getting stronger. Ayo, the mirror don't lie. If you want the truth, don't close your eyes.
I feel like I'm afraid to say how I feel, to know I let you down. 'Cause late nights turn to days, don't wanna let you down. With each breath we give away, it'll never be the same. I'm chasing somebody who won't ever ease the pain, but I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart. If it's only half of your heart. I feel like I'm afraid of the only things I can't change. I live life on a page that was written too long ago. I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart. If it's only half of your If it's only half of your If it's only half, but I don't want half of your heart, heart, heart. You can have it back if it's only half of your heart.
Today is gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head said, get out and play. 'Cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. My lucky day. Don't need a pot of gold, a rabbit's foot or to be told. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day. Slept in 'cause I don't care and didn't make the bed. Sip coffee on my couch, what can I do instead? No work, it's only fun 'cause it's all okay. 'Cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day. It's my lucky day.
Hey, I got a confession. Been losing all momentum. Just because it's easy, but that don't make it better. I wanna dig my hands deep down in the dirt. Take a walk along the street if I'm feeling dessert. All of this convenience just doesn't work for me. I wanna play with fire, let me get hurt. Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean.
Welcome to the live stream. Let me get you guys on my main camera here. Let's put this back. There we go. Well, today's Saturday. We're building a new system. It is a system for ourselves. Hopefully everybody's doing great today. I'm going to show what you're going to need to build the system, as well as go over all the parts, and as well as show you guys a new case that we're using. We are using this case here. We are also going to be selling this case specifically because it does have a really good layout. So let's get started with what we're going to need. So let me bring over the top down first. And let me get it straightened out first here. That doesn't look too horrible. All right. Water. Okay, so, ooh, it's a little slanted, sorry. Let me hit this on, put myself over there. Okay, so what you're gonna need to build this system, you're gonna just basically need a screwdriver, wire cutters, some zip ties, a knife, and 2 flash drives. One flash drive is for Windows 11 and drivers, and the other flash drive is for basically memory testing and testing the memory itself. I like to run a memory test on anything that's going to use XMP memory because it doesn't work on every motherboard. It works on the majority, but some have problems. So you want to test the memory just to make sure it works. So let's put all that stuff out of the way a little bit. I'm going to need these right now. And I'm going to bring over the parts. Parts are also in the description, so if you want to purchase this system, you can just basically click the links and purchase straight through. We do not get any type of affiliate link or anything like that on there, so it is completely just because I'm providing it. So let's start with the cooler. This is going to be a little bit different. This cooler is a third-party cooler. This is going to be used for cooling, obviously, the CPU. It's a little different. This is a little bit more high-end. This system, again, is for one of our builds, so it's actually for an internal use. It's going to be for programming, and we want it to be a little bit more silent than the stock cooler that comes with the CPU. The CPU that we are using is a Ryzen 5 5600G. It does come with a stock cooler, but we're not going to use the stock cooler. It does have built-in Radeon graphics. We did buy this from Newegg, and I'm not sure why the box has got Chinese writing on it. I'm hoping it's the same. We will find out. Move that off. The next part is RAM. RAM, we went with the DDR4 2x16 gigs, so it comes up to 32 gigs of RAM. This is a Corsair Vengeance Pro memory. The real reason why we bought it was because the speed was a little bit better, and of course it has colorful lights. It has nothing to do with the lights. All right, we're also, for space, we're going with a 1 terabyte Crucial drive. It does not have a speed on it, does it? Well, it will be in the description anyway, but the speed I think is 2,000 or 5,000 megabytes per second. It's fine for what we need. Motherboard, we're going with an ASUS Prime B450M-A2, which is II2. This is a Windows 11 compliant motherboard. It also is one of the little bit better ones. It is not the most expensive board, but this is a budget-friendly board for a really easy budget-friendly build. So it's good for that. It's about, I think the last time I checked it was on about $70 or $80 for this board, so it's not too expensive, but it has a lot of features for that $70, $80. Compared to the newer socket for AMD, this is the older socket. And the newer socket motherboards are way over $100 and something, so that's why we're not going that route right now until it comes down. So that's all the parts. That and, oh, well, the power supply is a Thermaltake 500 watt power supply, 80 plus. It's nothing really fancy. It is just good enough for what we need to run it for. Now, if you're going with it, now if you want to build this system yourself and you want to add a graphic card, you'll have to change the power supply because the power supply will not be able to handle a really good graphic card. Plus, you'll want something a little more efficient because you're going to be pulling more power. So let's start with assembly. Oh, case. Case is back here. Sorry, it's a little large. I can't get this in view, I don't think. Maybe. No, probably not really. All right, well, you'll see it shortly when I go to take this apart, and when we start to assemble that, you'll see that going. So let me just flip this thing off. There we go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the motherboard assembling things. I'm going to assemble outside the case just to make it a little bit faster and a little bit better for me. You can assemble any which way you want. You can build right into the case if you want, but it is a little more difficult to do it that way. This, I'm going to also show you the motherboard before I put it in the case so you can get an idea of where to plug things in, because once I put it in the case, the camera view is going to be a little difficult to see all of that, especially since I might have to adjust the height of this camera to make that case fit underneath and on top of this table. So you have the motherboard itself, what comes with the motherboard, what's in the box, El Manuel, a driver disc that we're not going to use, a little screw for the M.2 drive, which is here, which we're going to use that, the dreaded I/O shield, and some SATA cables, which we're not going to use either because we don't have a secondary drive. So that's going to close that down. Just going to build it right on top of the box. Take the board out. Do not put this underneath or anything. The outside of this can have static electricity, so just be a little bit careful. Should just build right on top of the box itself. Straighten that out. Let me get this rid of this so it's out of the way. Should probably put a garbage bag there. Anyway, all right, so I'm going to go over the board a little bit before we put it into the system and start putting everything on it. Just going to go over where we're going to connect things. So let me just get the focus here. Sorry about the focus. It's going to be a little hard to see. If I can get it, maybe we'll go back a little bit. Oh yeah, the lettering can be seen. Okay. So you have your SATA ports here, more SATA ports down here for any external drives that you may have. If you have a spinning Rust drive, or if you even have an SSD drive, that might be SSD, or in other words, a SATA connection. Any SATA connection would be connected here or over here on this side. You have your front panel connectors right here. I'm doing this reverse, so I apologize, guys, if this looks a little weird. But on here, it is written down, HDD is bottom left, reset, that should be power switch, and then all the way to the left on this side should be on top. That should be the power LED. If you can't see this writing, which is kind of hard to see here, you can also get it from the motherboard manual. It will show there. This is where you would plug in your USB 3.1 header. This is where you plug in your USB 2.0 header. Again, all of this is in the motherboard manual. This motherboard actually is very well laid out, so you're going to have everything pretty much in one spot. You're not going to have too much jumping around. There are COM diagnostic debugging and stuff like that. You'll probably never have to use these. Then you have your front audio port, which is labeled AAFP. Let's see, what else? We're going to go back a little bit here. And for your RAM, which I will be putting in shortly, is right here. Come on. Adjust a little bit. There we go. So RAM, this motherboard actually has 4 RAM sockets. We're not populating all of them, so we're going to put them in dual channel mode. Most motherboards are going to be color coded, so if you notice these two are here black, these two are kind of gray, that means that you should be using these sockets or these sockets together, not, you know, this one and that one or something like that. Just use the same colors. If you want, you can also look at the DIMM markings here, which actually explains which DIMM you should be populating. If you notice, there are 2 stars right next to A2 and B2. So that's the ones that they probably recommend that you install directly into as default. But you should really, again, check the motherboard manual just to be sure. I would also not use the motherboard manual that comes with the computer. The motherboard, I would actually go online and download the newest one just so you have the most up-to-date. Right here is your NVMe socket, which is going to basically put in your hard drive into. That's going to be a 2280 drive, so that's that size here. There is a larger size, which is 22110. The 22110 drive, some people might have a longer drive, but they have more of a performance drive, maybe a little longer. It does have the mount for it. Rear case fan, there is one connector right there. This is your regular CPU socket. There are some other pins on this board that are really not necessary for most installations, so we're not going to go over it. But this is your power for your main power from the power supply. That's your 24 pin, and you also have your 12-volt rail at the top, which is for the CPU. We'll show you which one to plug in correctly. This board also has some coverings on it, if you notice, which are basically not really a covering. This is a heatsink, I'm sorry. This heatsink basically is covering your VRMs just to kind of cool them down a little bit more. It does help with dissipating a little bit of heat and will actually make the system run a little bit better. We're not going to be using the stock cooler, so we're not going to be probably using these stock pieces, but we'll probably take that off when we get to that. I/O, upside down. There we go. For the I/O, okay. Here we got basically your regular standard stereo jacks, which is just for your audio card in and out. Ethernet, USB, I think 3.0, and then I think this is 3.1A. 3.1. I had to double check. And basically it still even has a PS2 port, which is kind of really old, but it's there. HDMI connection, DVI, and a VGA. This does not have DisplayPort. If you are looking for a DisplayPort connection, you're probably better off with a graphic card. Some motherboards do have it, but most motherboards do not have a DisplayPort. So unless you want to spend a little more money on the motherboard, but at that point you're probably better off just buying a graphic card. There is a CPU hand header and also a chassis fan header, which is up here at the top, which is, one is a light gray, which is the CPU, and the little darker black is a chassis fan 2. So it allows you to connect multiple fans to one board. So let's start assembling. Let's get this out. I'm going to put the M.2 first in, and then we're going to put probably the cooler on there just to be sure that it fits with the RAM, because the RAM is, I think, a little higher up. So I'm hoping that I did not make a mistake. And if we did, well, that's always fun too. All right, so this is the NVMe. I'm going to go back to here. Here we go. NVMe. The NVMe is going to go into this socket down here. So we're just going to take this out. If it comes out without making a mess. And before you install the NVMe drive, you have to put the little post in. This is a 2280, so it's going to go right into the 2280 post connector here. A little holder. Let me just get the screw out. This screw is really, really small. Ooh. This is the stand for it, which is going to go onto the motherboard, and then this screw goes on top of the drive, which will screw that in. I'm going to probably have to get a different screwdriver for that in a second. You may need a smaller screwdriver. Some of these have it already pre-built in, so you don't have to do this. And I'm hoping that your board does, because this is a real pain to screw in. Most of the time I don't get this first try, so hey, look at that, we got lucky. All right, first try, I got it into the right socket. So let's put this into, now when you put this drive in, you're gonna put it on basically a 45-degree angle slot it in on one side, and then it should push down and line up. Now, of course, you need a screwdriver to screw this in. I'm going to use a small screwdriver here that I have. You could use any really small pin screwdriver. Like, you don't really need something professional like what I've got here, which is an iFixit one, but you can use anything you want. Just use a different head. It's a very small screw. That's all you're really going to use that for. And that's it. That's installed. So we're going to move on to the next thing, which is basically CPU, and we're going to do the CPU fan. So let's get the CPU out of the box. Again, I'm not sure why this box says Chinese writing on it. We're going to hope that it's the same and that there's no problem. But we will find out. So, in the box, the box is the regular box. And then basically it's got some little tags and code stuff. If you want, you can put these on the front of your case. They're little tags that basically, you know, show off what processor you have. It does come with a regular stock cooler. I'm just going to show the stock cooler, and there's going to be a big difference here. You'll see that this is just a regular stock cooler. It has the regular thermal paste on it. Do not touch that thermal paste if you're going to use this. If you're going to use this specific cooler, you would just take these two brackets off that are on the board, and then this would just screw on top of that when you go to put the processor in. But right now, we're not going to use this, so I'm just going to put this back in the box the way I thought I found it. There we go. And put that back in. There we go. This will be used for something else. Or we'll just have a spare. Don't ever throw this out. I mean, obviously somebody might actually want to buy that from you, or you could just keep it around as a spare just in case your other one fails on you. You can do that. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to install the CPU, which I'm totally skipping steps. Sorry. CPU itself comes in a clamshell. Just open up the clamshell. Be very careful. The pins are on the bottom of this CPU. This one happens to have pins. The new one is an LGA socket, which doesn't have pins, but it's still just as sensitive. Just be careful, grab it from the edges with your fingers. You'll also notice there is a little arrow. That little arrow is going to match up the arrow on the socket, which I have it the wrong way. So you just turn it, so it matches the arrow, and then you drop it into the motherboard. Should just pop right in. You shouldn't have to slide it around too much, and just hold your finger down, pop it down. Should go in with no force. If you're putting in a lot of force, you're probably bending pins at that point. So it should be no force. It should just drop right into the socket. That is the most dangerous part about this installation, I think, pretty much compared to everything else that you should really take your time on. All right, so graphic card, it's CPU cooler, I mean. Let me pop this out, get this out of the way. Let's open the box. I've not installed this one, so this is gonna be a learning lesson for myself. We will probably have to read the directions. Box of accessories. Let me close this. I'll cut myself, okay. That over there. Just some, okay, comes with a regular fan. Be quiet fan. Well, it's be quiet. So there we go. We'll take that out. And let's get the directions. Just be careful of the fins. You don't want to cut yourself. If you're not sure, you can also grab from the base of the unit. What's else in here? This is it. Just a little. No, that's just a regular manual. All right, that should be it. Now, when you buy a third-party cooler, it'll probably work with AMD and Intel processors. So you're gonna have to make sure that you're reading the directions and using the proper brackets for the proper processor that you're on. So in this case, we're doing AMD, so I'm just gonna open up the manual here, and let's see what they say about the AMD directions. Oh boy. What happens to just one-page simple manuals? Okay, already starting off the bad foot. I'm looking at the wrong directions. At the bottom. AM4 happens to be at the bottom. This is an AM4 socket, so that's what I'm reading about. It is basically saying remove the current mounting brackets, place the 4-nut screwdriver, okay. Okay, so we're not using the pre-existing mounting brackets here, but we are using the backplate bracket that is still staying here, so we're going to definitely use that. We're going to basically unscrew that. Let me just push this off to the side here for a minute. Always just get a little bit of room. So you have to take this off, these 4 screws. You could use a regular screwdriver. You don't need you don't need an electric one. I'm just being lazy and I really don't want to waste time, so. If you do use an electric screwdriver, be sure to use one that actually has a catch caught. In other words, like it has a regular mechanism that does stop. I have mine set at 17. This is a pretty weak screwdriver, but if you have a very powerful screwdriver, you'll probably want that number to be a lot lower. So basically when you go to screw something in, I can't hold it, but if you go to screw something in, it'll basically stop, and when it catches the last part of the thread, it won't keep trying to strip a screw or something like that. It does help if you use a lower power screwdriver. Don't use something like that. Don't go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and get like a really heavy duty screwdriver for this. This should only really be used like a very light screwdriver, something that doesn't have a lot of torque. It's just simple. All right, so we took that out. Placed the 4 AMD spacer nuts onto, okay, where are the nuts? Where are all my nuts? The nuts are in the box. All right, let's take a look at the nuts. Oh, okay, these are the fan clips, obviously. Them off to the side. Don't lose anything, obviously. Don't be messy like I am and throw everything all over the desk. Be sure to organize stuff. Regular box. Garbage. All right, it's gonna come up with, the bag should be labeled, but let's see. It is labeled. All right, so when you take this out of here, there's gonna be a bunch of parts that are coming flying out because Brian has dropped things like usual. Do not drop things. All right, let's see. Yep, there was one labeled Intel, one labeled AMD. That is pretty much the easiest way to determine stuff. We're not doing an Intel, there's a lot more stuff for Intel. But we'll put off Intel over here. We're just gonna open up the AMD one. I'm not gonna open it up over camera, I mean it's in a bag. I just don't wanna drop stuff on the motherboard like I normally do, so let's not do that. These are the spacers, clamps, and the bag we don't need. Okay, so let's see. Did they first of all also pre-apply paste? They did, okay. We will use it. All right, so basically on the directions, it's saying place the 4 AMD spacer nuts onto the backplate bolts protruding through the front side and affix. Okay, this is really complicated for something that's not that complicated. Literally, you're just basically attaching these brackets and the spacers. So let's get the spacers out first. Make it sound so horrible. All right. Let's just not lose anything. All right. So these little spacers, yeah, okay. That's just a piece of plastic with a hole on both sides. That's all it is. That's what a spacer is. It's going to basically go right over the mounting bracket from the rear. So we're just going to put those over this. That's here, 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 here. So 4 total. Make sure you have it the right direction. They are directional. The holes, one hole is smaller than the other, so you really can't put this on the wrong way. If you try to, it's not going to fit. So 4 on there, and then basically we're going to put the bracket on. Bracket, 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 brackets, brackets. Now here comes the question of which way the bracket goes. looking at the directions, the bracket looks like it wants to go where the fan is facing this way, pulling air going towards the outside or the back part of the case. That makes sense, because if you look at the RAM sockets here, the RAM sockets are here, you want the fan here. So the bracket is down and below, and it goes this way, like that. Yes? Yes. All right, so AM4, we're just gonna take, that's what we've got. Just gonna put that over here, and let me get the screwdriver. Just lay that in. Okay. Oop. Yeah, don't, come on. Magnetic tips. Yeah. All right. And the other side, same thing, just put the screws through, line them up. Do not jitter. There we go. Okay. Make sure these are snug. I know I didn't tighten them all the way at first, just to make sure I got it on the correct hole. Everything is connected. Make sure they're not moving or anything. If they're moving, retighten down, because obviously this is what the whole cooler is going to sit on top of, and it needs perfect pressure for that to work and cool correctly. So be sure that you have this nice and tight toward the board, and it should not be wobbling or moving or on some kind of weird angle or anything. It should be straight and flat. If you want to double check it, you can pick up the board and then look down the side of the board here, and you'll see that this perfectly matches and connects directly down to the board. So there is no space, there is no gap between the board and the actual bracket. You want to make sure that that's that way, because if you don't, you're going to end up with the cooler not making direct contact with the CPU, and then you're gonna have a problem. So, not that this has ever really happened. I've never really had that issue, but you know, if it's your first time building, you might run into that problem, and you may end up causing an issue there. So mounting, there is another piece of metal here. This is the crossbar that's gonna go across here when we're done with putting the heatsink on there. So there should be more screws, and are there more screws? Oh, it goes this way. Sorry, it goes that way, not this way. The little striation lines are going downwards. Where's my other screw? I only got one screw. Uh-oh. Ah, there it is. All right, it did come with two. I just dropped them. Two big screws. This is going to hold that down. So what we're going to do is now we're going to take off. At this point, you want to be very careful. You're going to take this plastic off. And when you take this plastic off, there's going to be pre-applied thermal paste. There we go. Yeah. Bottom of this. You'll see there's pre-applied thermal paste right here. That's that white stuff. This is the silvers, the bottom. There's your copper pipes. This thermal paste is already pre-applied. So as you can apply this once. If you have to take apart the system and pull this back off, you're gonna have to reapply this thermal paste, which means that you need to buy thermal paste, number one. And then number two, you're gonna make sure it's nicely evenly distributed on the processor before you remount this, because you'll want it nice and flat like that. We're going to use the current thermal paste because this system is not a really high-end system. If you have a high-end system, you may want to think about changing this thermal paste, using something that's third party that might be a little bit cooler. Again, it's not that big of a deal as long as you have thermal paste. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter too much. You can use CORSAIR thermal paste, you can use whatever that you want out there. It will work probably fine, you know. Just as long as you put enough there so it actually covers the whole processor top and it's a very thin layer. There's no such thing as too much thermal paste, but you really also don't want it oozing over the sides and stuff. You want it just enough to cover the CPU. If you want, you could also use a thermal paste spreader, which is literally just a plastic knife. So it's like kind of like, it looks like a plastic knife, a little spongy thing, which allows you to do it that way too. I don't personally care either way. Since this is already pre-applied, I'm not gonna have to do too much to it. Which way this goes is a really good question. I'm gonna imagine be quiet is supposed to be right side up. I don't think this makes a difference. No, I don't think it really makes much of a difference. I think it's not a directional thing. Actually, you'd want it, yeah, see, this is a little bit off center going this way to the right side. You'd want this right side more towards your RAM so you'd have more room for the fan and for the RAM itself to fit in the socket. So I would probably put it this direction where be quiet is correctly up the right side direction, and then throw it down onto the processor and put the little plate on. You know, let me just get it evenly aligned. At this point, just be careful, because if you do move this, you're gonna have to reapply the thermal paste. Like if you lift it up, it won't be even anymore. So just plop it down once, let it sit there, be sure you're on an even desk. I guess that's important. And now you're gonna put the bar across and down. It's gonna lock. There you go, should find its spot. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the screw in, or screws. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna line up one screw at a time. Do not screw it all the way down. You're just gonna go a little bit, just so it catches. Just to have it catch. Do not have it screw all the way down, because you wanna get it level with the other side. Make sure you get the other screw in before you start tightening. Now that you got both in, tighten all the way down. You go back to the other side, tighten it all the way down. Make sure it grinds, it totally levels out. So you want to go, like basically zero out. It should go all the way down to the full part of the bracket. If you have not screwed all the way down, this is going to be loose. Right now it is solid on there. It is not moving. That's what you want. If it's moving on you, unscrew and just be very careful not to move the cooling tower too much, because the paste is going to get ruined. So you want to just try to level that back out. Again, if you screw up putting this on, you might want to have an extra tube of, you know, thermal paste around, just in case you have to clean that. You also want to get some isosulfuric, whatever, alcohol rub on it. I'd recommend 90% on it, so that it basically gets rid of that stuff if you need to get rid of it and repaste. If you have to repaste, you got to remove the current paste, so that's why I'm saying you might need the alcohol to get that taken off. Yeah, so now we have to mount the fan. Mounting the fan, it's pretty easy. The logo faces towards your RAM, and it has to be on this side of the RAM, so the air basically is going through this way. Now, if you go look really closely, how I know this is because I just know it, but if you don't know it, there is some markings that say which way the air goes, and there's an arrow going this way, so it's going to go through the fan that way and blow out. You'll want that direction, because when you go to mount this in the case, you'll want basically positive airflow, and you want the positive airflow to pull from the front and then exit towards out the back. So you want positive airflow to go throughout the whole case. You'll want it to basically go from, this is the front of the case, going towards the rear of the case, so it's going to pull air this way and go through, and that's going to exhaust out the back of the case. You always want one direction of airflow. If you do not do this correctly, you will end up overheating your CPU most likely, or you'll have really bad temperatures, because the temperatures are going to skyrocket really quickly if you have the fan circulating hot air back into the case. It's just going to keep heating up. It's like the circulation button in your car. You know, if you close your vents, it's just going to keep reheating or recooling that air. Now, normally that's good for you because obviously that's what you want. But for a computer, you don't want to be constantly heated or cooled. You want to be just constantly cooled. You want constant fresh air. So you want to have that button open and you want to have everything just flowing in one direction going out. Now, these are the little fan holders. These things are really obnoxious. I hate these things, but we all have to live with them. So they also give you a second set, which looks the same, yeah, because you know you're gonna end up bending them. So just be careful. These are very fragile. What you're gonna do is you're gonna hook these on to the edges of the fan, which have the little holes. These little holes here. I'm gonna turn it. The little holes. This is just gonna slip into the hole like a anchor, and then that's gonna latch on to the fan. So I think I got the wrong ones. Wrong holes. There's these down here. All right, that was demonstration purposes. You guys got it. So it goes this way. If you want to see, that's the back rear holes because obviously it's closer to the fan, and that's going to latch onto this portion of the cooler. So it's just going to pop into that place. Now, so what to do that? I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. Just going to put them in. And I don't know if they're going to stay or I'm going to end up having to put these on twice, probably. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes I get this first shot, and sometimes we get it on a second shot. This would help if Brian put it the right way. I don't think this is the right way. Oh no, it's the other way. Oh man. All right, see, now I'm stupid. All right, so it comes in from the bottom. This portion this little piece has to be indented on the other side, so it needs to flip in from the bottom, which I don't understand why that would go there. It is the top one. You know, this is why I hate these little spring things, because it's like there's too much movement. Am I on the wrong side? Yeah, just go this way. All right, rotated enough. There we go. That goes that way, seriously? These directions are not that great for the fan. Let's see if they have a better one. No, that's the same photo. I hate these springs. No, it goes across the top, so I'm doing it the wrong way. I had it right the first time. That's not the way it goes either. Flip it. Maybe I did have it right. Well, and you know why we don't do springs. I had it right the first time. Okay. So, just to give an idea what I'm doing here. It was the outer ones. That's why it didn't work. So it's the outer ones, the outer holes, and it goes in towards the, let me see if we can try to get a better photo this way. Okay. It is going in towards the fan. So this should just grab, hopefully. And we will see. Let me just hold it and try to slide it on, hopefully. Line it up, obviously, first, and then pull to get it acclimated. Right spot. And on that side. That's it. All right, that was a lot easier than what I was trying to do, which was way wrong. So, all right. If you have to clean this fan, you can obviously take the springs off and then re-clean if you need to. I'm just going to connect the fan connector straight this for power for the motherboard. So just powering it from the motherboard, powering up the fan, and that plugs right into there. It is the one that's closer. All right, RAM-wise, the reason why I showed you the motherboard earlier is because you can barely see the little labels underneath there, but it's saying DIMM B2 and DIMM A1, which are these gray sockets, is the defaults. So that's what I'm going to put into the RAM. I really don't like how this mounts. I wish there was a better way of doing that. But, all right. The Noctua ones work a little bit better. The Noctua ones have like a little grippy thing on the side that makes it a little easier to grip into, so you don't have to use the springs. It just snaps on, which is, I think, a lot easier than this. This is a little more complicated. You could also get a 2-fan setup if you want push-pull. You can put another fan here, same direction, again, going this way. Always make sure it's going the same direction, and you can have it pushing out more air if you want. I don't think it makes much of a difference for air cooling to have a push-pull unless you have like a very hot room or something and you need to just pass more air to get it through. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. All right, so let's get on to RAM. So this is Vengeance Pro Memory. The Pro Memory has beautiful LEDs on top of it. You don't have to get Pro Memory. You can just get the regular Vengeance memory. But this one happened to be on sale. So that's the way I went. Plus, I don't mind a little bit of RGB once in a while. I mean, it's nice. At least you know the system's on. I don't think I sit there and stare at it all the time, but you know, some people I guess do. All right, you want to line up the socket. Basically, it only goes in one way. You want to push down until it clicks. And once it clicks in the spot, that's basically it. If you need to take this back out, you can always push down the lever and it will pull it back up. In this case, I'm going to have to because I just pushed it and it popped out of the socket. No, I can get in there. There we go. Okay. And again, you want to skip one socket, go to the next one, because that one's actually still gray. And you want to pop in the memory the same direction as the first one. To find out which way it goes, by the way, I keep skipping things. There's a little notch here. This little notch is, if you notice, this side is a little shorter than that side. So you just line it up with the short side of the socket and it should slide right in with no problem. Now this is DDR4 memory. DDR5 memory still has the same like pinage, like you'll still have a different, you know, like the little notch will be there. The only difference is that it really doesn't matter where you plug it in on the sockets because they're already in dual channel anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much where you populate them. But for DDR4, it does make sense to populate it correctly. So do just take advice for that. All right. It's garbage, manual. I don't think we need the manual anymore. So file it. Okay. Garbage, garbage. Just clean up really quickly before you start to move on to the case. You know, get all the stuff that you're not utilizing out of the way. Come on. Out of the way. There we go. And we don't need that or that. Or this. IO shield you will need, and that is blurry. There we go. It's the IO shield, we'll be using that. These are extra fan connector, fan parts, so just keep them off to the side. You don't want to throw those out because just in case those clips break, you can use new ones. All right, I'm going to move the motherboard out of the way currently so I can get the case in place. This case is a lot larger case. This is a Thermaltake Ceres. This is Thermaltake Ceres 500 TG ARGB. Wow, that's like a mouthful. It's a Thermaltake Ceres case. How about that? We're just gonna cut it down a little bit. It is an enormous case. I didn't realize how big this stupid thing was. I wish I kind of like thought about this a little differently. It does come with a manual, by the way. I'm not going to use this, but you know, little manual to tell you all about it. We're just going to go through it. We're going to wing it. All right. I don't know if I'm going to be able to lift this. Go on. Yeah, it's a little heavy. This is a glass case. Holy Lord. Look at how big this thing is. Like this is me sitting down. This is ridiculous, right? Anyway, I'm gonna just take apart this a little bit really quickly and then we'll go back to the top overhead shot. You know what, maybe we'll put this down so you can see everything about it. You know what, let me put this back this way. All right. Oh. All right. Okay. Whew. Look at that reflection. All right, it's got a glass, obviously, glass side. You're seeing my top light, sorry. This is probably the best we're gonna get out of this. So it's got a toolless glass entry, so you can just turn this and then basically this will come up. This is tempered glass, so be extremely careful. You don't wanna break that. I don't know if you can see this. This side over here actually slides out, so you can actually slide the glass up and off. So while you're working, you can not break the glass, which I'm going to end up doing. There we go. All right. So it comes off, the glass door comes off. It's just a regular hinge, that's all this is, not really fancy. It's a regular like pole hinge. So we're just gonna take that off. Again, tempered glass, so be careful. Do not drop that. You don't wanna drop it on an angle especially. If you have some sort of like soft carpet you can put it on, that's probably the best choice. Just so it's out of your way and you don't have to worry about it. Maybe out of your way of your pets or anything, you know, so they don't knock it over and break it. This case is kind of enormous compared to the Thermaltake H17 that we normally build in. The 17 is a little bit smaller than this. This is also more massive on the metal portion of it, like most of this is metal. It also has a nice side panel. The H17 has a solid panel. So if you want something for more just like your everyday work, don't really care what's in it kind of case, save some money and go back to the H17. You'll save a few bucks and it'll give you the same performance. Now, this is a little nicer because it has a window. If you don't do water cooling especially, this has a lot of mounting options for water cooling. It has a lot of mounting options on the top also for bigger radiators. You could do a bigger radiator here, also in the front if you want. It also comes with a lot of fans and a lot of color. So when I'm going to turn this thing on, you're going to see all of this garbage light up. And yeah, you pay for that in this case a little bit, but it is a much nicer case. It does have about a lot of airflow. It has a lot of mesh panels for all of the coverings and holes and stuff, so it's really easy to clean. The other thing I really like about this one over the other case, over the H17, is really your front panel connectors here. You'll see you get your regular power button. You have a USB-C connection, not just a regular 2A's. You have a C as well. You have a front audio if, God forbid, you want to use that. And you also have the reset button directly right below it, which is really hard to push. I also like seeing a very hard to push reset button because I don't know how anybody can actually hit that, but I have done it myself. Hitting a bigger button than that is probably very dangerous. So, but it has nice front I/O connections. It also has a power light and a hard drive light, so it does help with some sort of communication. More importantly though, I really like the fan layout. I really like the air movement layout. This also gives you an option for water cooling, which is this panel here. That will probably mount your reservoir to if you're doing custom water cooling. We're not doing custom water cooling today, but it's nice to have the option if you want to go that route later. This also has a GPU bracket here. Yeah. You can actually mount your GPU this way, you know, standing upwards instead of in if you have a GPU. Again, we don't have a GPU, but it's nice to have that feature. If you are mounting in that direction, you can actually mount it so you can see your, you know, your GPU a little bit better. If you want to show off your hardware a little more, this is kind of like that kind of case to do that. The front part of this is all mesh in the front. Yeah, it's all mesh. It's all mesh in the front, all solid metal here, which I like. Is not all plastic, it's all solid metal. Down below, oof, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this one. Let me move. Oh, move it. Oh, okay. So down here, which is kind of out of camera, but kind of in view, there's a panel here. This panel can actually pop out, and they have an optional LCD screen that you can pop into this thing. So you can get like a little LCD screen for like your power, your temperatures and stuff, if you want to see that all on the side of your case. It's kind of neat. It's nifty and kind of geeky at the same time. It's an option. More filters. There's more filters on the bottom that slide in and out at the bottom. Power supply, obviously this is covering the power supply. This is all your power supply cage down at the bottom. So that allows to, place to hide all your wires and everything else. I also like the fact that this has little rubber grommets here for all the cables to push through. This just makes it a little bit nicer so you don't see all the cables coming in and out of the case. That's basically it of this case. It's really nice. It's a really metal case. I'm going to start putting everything in. So let's start building, I guess. Oh, it's a little heavy. No one's going to walk off with it. So that's the nice part. The bracket, there is an anti-sag bracket that comes with this thing. I think this is an anti-sag bracket, I'm pretty sure. Yes. This is a GPU anti-sag bracket. I'm not putting a GPU in today, so I'm gonna just put this off to the side. If we decide to upgrade this unit, we would use this to hold the GPU in place. This is for a little bit more higher end unit. Obviously, we're not doing that, so we're just gonna put that off to the side. Don't throw anything out, obviously, just in case you like change your mind and say, hey, I may wanna do that later. Part of that bracket, part of the screws. I probably should have just left it in the bag. We'll repackage that later. Okay, twist ties, we're gonna cut those off. Where's my cutter? Oh, okay. Yeah, this thing is big, man. All right, so you cut this off, just cut the ties out. Get the ties off of the case. We don't want anything hanging out in there. Alrighty. There's also a GPU mounting bracket here, so if you want to mount your GPU upwards, again, like I said before, you can do that. We're not doing that today, so I don't know if we have to take it out. I think we can just leave it. Honestly, it's one less thing I have to take out. I'm better off. It does come with an RGB extension cable for extending and connecting to your motherboard. We will need that to connect all the fan colors and all that stuff. By the way, RGB is still optional in this case. You don't have to plug up these connections for the power, for the colors. You can just plug it in straight for a fan connection if you want. If you get overwhelmed with like all the wiring, because RGB has a lot more wiring, you're gonna have a lot more cabling for powering the colors, and you're gonna have to you have to put them in correct directions and stuff. So that does require more work compared to just plugging in a fan. So you may want to do that. There might be a fan control on the other side. I think it does come with a fan controller, or it connects all in as... I have to double check and see how it goes. Let's get the motherboard in first, because I have the case this way and I don't feel like moving the case 6 times because it's way too heavy. So I'm just going to get what we got to get done on one direction, and then we'll move to the next direction. So before I do anything, remember to do the IO shield. I hate this thing. I think they should never make these stupid things. But yeah, this is, I always forget this like 90% of the time. And the only times I've never forgot it was whenever I do it on stream, because I don't want to forget and then have someone yell at me later that we have to take apart the whole machine just to put this piece of junk back in, because the motherboard, you can't put this in once the motherboard's already in. It obviously sits against it. This is a piece of, I think, aluminum. Yeah, it's probably a piece of aluminum. So be careful with your fingers. Probably shouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, which is just bending this by hand. You should probably bend these up with like a pliers or something so you don't cut yourself, because this is pretty sharp. And when you put it in also, maybe you might want to have like a pair of like rubber tip gloves or something so you don't end up like cutting your fingers. I've done this 1.5 billion times. I've cut myself probably a few hundred times. So I think I'm averaging pretty well, and I'm just gonna wing it. But if you're doing this for the first time, you don't want to cut yourself, you may want a little bit more of a rubber glove or something like that. So I'm just gonna pop this right in. It just basically is a little rectangle hole here. It just pops in, pushes right in, but it's pressure fitted with the little metal clips. That's it. It just pushes in really easily. Now we're ready to put the motherboard in at this point. Let's see. Do I need anything else? I'm only double checking because it's the first time I'm building in this case to see if I'm missing anything else. I don't think I am, but I am going to have to change these little standoffs. Oh boy. There we go. I don't know if you guys can see this. This case is so big, like even the standoffs are kind of hard to see from this angle. But yeah, we're gonna have to change where these go because these are not in the positions I think that this motherboard fits. What I'm doing is just looking at the motherboard, comparing where the holes are, and aligning them correctly. Yeah, AM is missing this one here, and we're missing this one here for M. So it's M. If you're looking at this, it's all the ones that say M, pretty much, is the ones that you want to go for. Actually, this one's labeled pretty nicely compared to the last few cases. They didn't have any labels. So that's actually kind of nice. At least it says A/M, and then some of the ones that say M are obviously the ones that we're plugging into. Now there are 2 M's here, and that's kind of confusing because we're using the bottom one, not the top one, because it doesn't align with this screw here. It aligns with that one there. Where are the screws? Did they didn't give me screws? Oh God, is it on the other side? Yeah, probably. Oh my Lord. All right, a lighter case is the answer. Okay, I didn't take off the other side. Sorry guys, this is gonna look a little weird. Bear with me for a moment. The sides of the case do have captive screws, which is also a nice thing, so you won't lose your screws. For the case cover, if I got them. Did I get them? No, I didn't get the third one. What am I doing? All right, there we go. That just slides off. Back of the case. I'm going to put that right by the other one. Not touching. There we go. All right. The screws are at the bottom. They're in the drive tray. All right, got it. Okay, let's take that out. All right, we're not going to do the back yet. I'm just going to go back to the front because that's where we were before, and I want to get the motherboard mounted, and then we'll worry about the power supply and all of that stuff on that side. But I don't want to change this around more than once, and I've already done that one. So let's not do that again. Alrighty. That's a pretty clear picture. Okay. So, screws came in the box. This is just a drive tray for 3.5-inch drive. There are 2 3.5-inch drive trays that you can use for this machine if you want to use a spinning rust drive, or I think it even has, yeah, it even has a layout for a 2.5-inch. So if you want to use, you can use the 3.5-inch, which is what the default is here, or you can line up like a 2.5-inch drive in the holes that are down here, and then put in like an SSD or something like that into there. You could also, I think there's some mounts in the back. Yeah, there's some mounts in the back. When we get to the back, I'll show you guys where the other drives can go if you want to add more drives. If you're a data hoarder and you have 1.5 billion drives, this case is great for that. You got a lot of choices. All right, box, garbage. We have, that comes with it, a bunch of cables. All right, someone said, wow, that's a big and heavy case. I'm sold already. Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a light case. If you have a hard time lifting anything over maybe like 15 pounds or something, well, first of all, that's probably pretty bad anyway. But it is pretty heavy, and then you add all your hardware in here, it's going to be really, really heavy. So more plastic. These are just some zip ties that came with it. We are going to use them, so just let's leave that off to the side. And we do have a whole bunch of screws, which I guess is a good thing. You know what? I'm going to use that box. Should I use the box? No, box is a small hole. Forget it. All right. Lots of screws. Oh. Okay, this case also comes with, which is really nice, a little adapter bit for your screwdriver. I love these things. I wish every case came with this. It's a little, let me get the whole picture here. There we go. So, let me go this way. This is a very small little adapter bit. If one side has Phillips, which is for your Phillips screwdriver, and then the opposite side has the thing to remove the little motherboard standoffs from the bottom of the case. This makes life a lot easier because then I don't have to go find a special screwdriver just to take those things out. So this is kind of nice. Kind of nice that they include it. Not everybody does. And if you got one, don't throw it out because you'll definitely need it some other time. All right, so we're going to adjust these. We're going to move this A1 from down here up into this M socket. Thank you. A socket down to the M socket, and we're going to move. I think that's it. I think that's the only one that's wrong. Everything else looks like it might be right. Yep. All right, this one's right, I think. Let me double check. Yeah, that one. That one. Yeah, A to M here, and then I have to also move this one up to here also. So down here to there. Let's do that. Let's get this out. All right. And just gonna flip this over. Top. Oh man. It's not mine. Well, that was a nice tool if it worked. It doesn't really work. Huh. I didn't line it up. Oh, you know what? This is in the way. You know what? Let me just take this one out. Just take this one off. Let's see. There we go. Ah, there we go. It was a little off. That's fine. All right, so I'm just going to move these around and get them in the proper position for the motherboard. And then we'll move forward. Make sure to screw them back down because it looks like they are not threaded, which that kind of sucks. By the way, that lovely little noise that you just heard, which was that little like clanking noise, that's basically the driver kicking back. So that means that I've screwed it all the way down and it's not going to give any more pressure. So just to give you an idea what's going on with that, that is something that is part of the screwdriver so it doesn't overturn or over tighten the screw. I'm going to still need to get this one, I think. They didn't come with any extra stands, did it? Let's see. No, it came with a stand. You know what, I'll just grab one of these. I'll have to go all the way down there and try to get at that. Okay, it came with another motherboard stand, so we're just going to grab one of those. There. All right. Same process, just going to load it up, push it down, and then screw into the bottom part of the board. Make sure it's you know, you don't cross thread anything. Make sure it's properly threaded before you start to screw it down. Oh, there we go. Done. Okay. They're all down. This one's a little loose. It's tight, tight, tight. Okay. Now we're about to put the motherboard in. I grab the motherboard usually from the actual heatsink. Just be careful of your fingers. You know, grab a spot that doesn't have fins so you don't end up cutting yourself. And again, just line up with the I/O port, the I/O shield, and slide in place. You want to look from the back of the computer to double check to make sure you're clearing everything on the I/O shield and that there's nothing crunching, which of course during all that moving I popped out the I/O shield. See? Good thing I checked it. All right, now we take two, push back in, line everything up. Make sure all the buttons and everything else, if there's a button back there, that it actually lines up, and then you should be able to push it forward and should line up with all the screw holes. And it does. All right, so now you're just going to take the screws for the motherboard and screw these in. And I'm going to try to find the right screw. This is really hard to see, so they're all black screws, unfortunately. And I think I might have got the wrong one. Come on. Wow, there's a lot of wrong ones. No, these are good. All right. You know, I'm just going to dump these out over here so I can just kind of grab what we need to grab. I would recommend that you count how many screws that you need installed and make sure that you have the proper amount, especially if this is your first time going, and you know, so you don't end up leaving a stand that might be behind or below the motherboard. It will cause a problem if you ground out your motherboard, or in other words, short out your motherboard. You will end up with a real problem, because if you do that, you may end up damaging your board. So you want to make sure that those stands, if they belong, make sure they belong there. If they don't belong there, take them out. That's why they give you that little tool, so you can kind of take that off there. Now let me show you the motherboard screw. It's a little bit different than the other ones. Sorry, there we go. And this is basically the motherboard screw. If you noticed, it is a little thicker for this case. It is a little longer too, so that's the one that you would use for the motherboard. If you're not sure, grab one of the other motherboard stands and see which one it fits. If it just slides directly in, that means it's too thin of a screw. You'll need a thicker of a screw. If it's way too thick, then it won't actually screw in. It'll just kind of like strip it. So you gotta be careful. You may want to do a test run on a one that basically you know is not going in the case. You know, if you're not sure. Or you can always reference the case manual if you really want to, but honestly, this shouldn't be that hard. There's only like 3 types of screws in there. Now our last few builds, you'll notice that they had a lot less screws. This one happens to have more screws to screw in for the motherboard. You want to try to get as many as you can, or whatever the case supports. Let's spin it a little bit. All right. Upper corner. They're mostly in the same spots, but some motherboards have the extra line of screws here, which in this case we actually have to do. But not every motherboard has those extra screws. You may only have a few less, so you know, just take a look at the board and see how many screw holes there are. I mean, and line them up. It's not that hard, but I know sometimes it's a little bit tricky being your first time. As long as you count them and you make sure they're correct, you should have no problem. Now, if you put the case back up and a screw falls out, then you know you got the wrong size screw. That's another option. It should be tightened there with no problem. The motherboard should now not move at this point, so just give it a little wiggle down below and see if it moves, which it doesn't. It's nicely secured. At this point, that's it for this side of the case for right now. Until we get to the other side, we're going to put the power supply in. So I'm going to flip this over and hope for the best. There's a lot of plastic here. All right, that's garbage. Get rid of that. This I'm going to just put off to the side because I keep getting in. This keeps getting in my way. All right. Okay. So let's lift it up. We're going to flip it over and we're going to do the power supply side. By the way, if you're doing this on your own, you don't have to keep flipping this around. You can just keep this in the upwards position and do the whole thing. But I'm doing this for the camera, so you know, so you guys can see everything that's going on. But if you're not doing this for a camera purpose or anything else, you could just leave this standing up and go through the whole thing, because then you don't have to keep flipping the case around. Or if you have like a Lazy Susan, you can throw it on a Lazy Susan and just spin it around and do what you gotta do. Now, this case comes with a lot of extra garbage and fun stuff. I say garbage, but more fun stuff. So, first off, let me focus here. There we go. It does come with some cable tie downs. I don't like Velcro here, but we're gonna leave it because it's already kind of like in here, and I don't think I could take these out. No, they don't come out. So they don't come out, just leave it, it's fine. But I don't like Velcro in a case because of all the dust. But since this has so many dust filters, I don't think there's gonna be much dust coming into the system. But if you have a very dusty environment, you really don't want Velcro because it will cling to everything. So all the dust will cling to this and it'll be very difficult to clean off. And you may end up just having to replace the stupid Velcro pieces when you get to that point. Now, if you know that you're going into a dirty environment and you're going to have a very disgusting amount of dust, cut these off then. You don't want to take these out, cut these off, and then just use regular wire ties for everything. I already know this is not a big deal because we're in an office here and this is where that's going to stay. And it's not that dirty, and we also have a lot of filters on this case, so I'm kind of okay with this, but honestly, most of the time, I like to take this out. So, power supply goes down here. Let's get the power supply out of the box. Do a knife. Knife. All right. Do not cut towards your fingers. That's a bad idea. All right. Power supply out. It's a warning sticker. Oh, that's just junk. Okay. All right. So it's just a regular smart Thermaltake 5-year ultra quiet continuous power. You can read here. Braided cables for Smart 500. This is probably not the best power supply if you're going to use, again, a graphic card. This is really just barely to make by with the regular, you know, just regular APU, no GPU. All right, so in the box, power cord, some screws, probably some ties. That's all in this cable in here. Make sure you keep that. Put it off to the side. We don't need the silicone packet. Now, if you care about looks, again, this power supply is probably not your choice either, because this one has ketchup and mustard cables to save money. That's what this is. This is a cost-effective power supply, so you won't see black cables. If you want something that has black cables, CORSAIR makes one, EVGA makes one, and Thermaltake makes one. You want one model up from this that will give you your black cables all the way throughout. These are ketchup and mustard. I don't really care because, again, it's not a showpiece here. Honestly, I just like the case. That's why I bought it. If I do decide to make this into more of a showpiece, then I would basically change this out. I would change this whole power supply out and just go to something that has black cables on it. Another reason why you don't want this power supply for a graphic card is you're going to look at your 12-volt rail here on the power sticker. It says 500 watts down here, which is really difficult to see. There we go. 500 watts, it says total power. But that's not actually all the power that this power supply can give out. Depends on what you're actually connecting to. It's actually rated for 456 watts of power on the 12-volt rail. That means that your motherboard, your graphic card, and every other component that's in your system must not exceed 456 watts of power. It's confusing, but that's what the real rating is. So when you go to purchase one of these online, you'll see that they usually have a picture of the sticker. And when they have the picture of the sticker, you want to definitely check that and make sure that it covers all of your components that you're using. If you're using a really expensive graphic card, you'll want probably 1 kilowatt. You want to go 1,000 watts of power, because just to overkeep on the aspect of making sure that you have enough power during high usage. That doesn't mean, by the way, 500 watts doesn't mean it's going to pull 500 watts of power all the time. It's going to pull whatever it needs to pull at that time. It doesn't mean that you're going to be always using 500 watts. Just that this is the max that it can handle. That's basically what that comes down to. You'll also, if you have a graphic card, you'll probably want something more than just a regular. This is like a regular 80 plus. It's right here. 80 plus. Rating. There, there's gold, there's bronze, there's platinum, there's silver, I think. So you'll probably want something more higher end just to save a little bit on power. Again, that's only going to save you power when you reach 80% mark on the 80% amount of power that your power supply can give out. Then it's going to start saving you money. It won't save you money when you're running at like idle and stuff. It's not going to make a difference. You're running at idle, it's not going to make any difference on the amount of power draw that's coming out from the outside of the outlet. It's not a big deal. But don't waste money on this if you don't really need to, unless but don't spend the least amount of money either. Like, this should be in the middle grade of the products before you go putting this in. Do not buy a cheap power supply. They are dangerous. Cheap power supplies are ones that are underrated. We only stick to certain manufacturers, but you're welcome to go to any manufacturer you want. I just be very careful about certain ones. We may actually make a whole video about power supplies, just so that you guys understand like the differences and why we choose what we choose, and what you're looking for. Why doesn't this fit? Am I doing something dumb? No, I'm doing something dumb. Oh. Oh, fancy cases. The bracket comes off the back. Okay, so the bracket comes off the back to allow the power supply to go in. I was not paying attention to that. I was sitting there talking about power supplies too much. All right. It has guide rails on the inside. If you notice, there are little plastic pieces here. I don't know if you can see them. They're a little bit hard to see here, but they're little plastic guide rails for like sliding the power supply in. That's how I knew that there was a bracket in the back. And I'm just going to put the bracket onto the power supply, and then we will screw it into, we'll slide it into the unit. Now, if you noticed, probably can't see this. I'm going to have to put it really close. There is a little arrow going upwards. That means that this faces upwards to the power supply. That means the fan faces down. The fan is facing down because it has a filter here to bring in air. So there's holes already here. This is for this case, you'll want the power supply facing down to pull that air in. Now, little word of advice: if you have carpet, do not put this case on directly on carpet. It will cause a suffocation to that power supply, and you will overheat pretty quickly. So what you'll want to do is to make sure have it a little bit off the carpet. If you do have carpet, you could still put it on carpet, just as long as it's a little above carpet. So you might want to put it on like a little shelf or something, or like a little wooden box or something. So at least or an apple box, just so it gets off the floor a little bit. You don't want it directly on the carpet itself. All right, screws that come with the power supply are in with the cable ties, so just take that all out and get the screws. That's all really we need here. It's a little hot in here today. All right, 4 screws. You're just basically putting the bracket on. Wow, these screws are not all that great. All right. One of them's like really weird looking. Oh, we have a screwed up screw. All right. That's a first. And one screw that was messed up. Maybe I got an extra one. Yeah, the case comes with extra screws, so it's the same screw for the power supply here. I had one that had just gunk in the middle. I'll put that for garbage. All right. So I'm just gonna screw this in. I'm gonna put the plate on. It only goes one way. The holes should line up with the back. Just line it up, and of course don't let it slide. There we go. Screw in the other ones. Last one, bottom corner. Just make sure they're all tightened down. So a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now with this system, what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna put the wires through from the back, so the wires are gonna slide in. If you have a power supply that is modular, you'll want to connect the wires before you do this, because if after you slide this in here, it's going to be kind of difficult to get at it, and you'll not want to have to like force your fingers through all that. Again, just remount the bracket in. It just slides straight in. You remount the bracket in place. Again, this is also a lot easier if you have this thing sitting upwards. I'm only doing this for the camera, but usually you should really put the case upwards, because then you're not fighting gravity. You're going with gravity, which is a little easier than to have to realign here. All right. It's plugged in. All right, so we got a lot of cables that I have to go through. Let's bring this down a little bit. All the excess cable is going to go, before I do that, all the excess cable is going to go right here, which is basically underneath all of the shroud. You won't see it on the other side of the glass. It's a little hidey area that you can just kind of hide all your cables away. So we're just going to slide this up, and we're going to undo these, because we're going to need to put cables through. I don't know if I'm going to really use these, honestly. I'm not really liking... I really don't want to like leave these in the system. That's really what it comes down to. I think I'm just being picky, but I really hate Velcro. I know a lot of other people love Velcro. I just can't stand it. I like my wire ties. I like everything being nice and tight inside the system. I don't have to worry about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the big 24-pin connection. It's going to go through here, because that's pretty much where it should be coming out. So that's going to go up there. We'll align that. What are all these cables? Wait a minute. My lord. What the hell is... What is this? That's a new connection. All right, that one I'm gonna have to look up. All right, so you get your basic USB 3.1 connection. That's gonna go through to the other side of the motherboard. You have your connectors for your front panel, which is your hard drive, your reset hard drive, power, light, and then power switch, which is over here. That's your power switch. They're all labeled, which is nice. There are black cables, so they're all nicely labeled. Everything is perfectly labeled there. These aren't actually going to stay here, so I'm going to push these off to the side, because I don't know why this is in the same channel. I think they just did this for packing. And then you get your USB 2.0 header for the other connections. So I really should try to use this. I feel like I should try to use it, even if I really don't want to. There's a lot of other tie downs you can use. You don't have to use these. Like, just come off. I don't want to cut it. I feel like I shouldn't have to cut this, but there's no way. I don't think this is heat on there. Yeah, it's heat on there. Yeah, these are heated on, so. Brian, come on, decide. All right, we'll use them. We're just gonna use them. Just gonna use it. Screw it, we'll use it. All right. All right, so. No, I want to put this through first. Now, figuring out which way these wires are going to go are another problem, because this board is shorter than the entire case. So your case, the board like stops like over here somewhere. So it doesn't actually reach the sockets that are down here. I don't think it's going to reach and then come back up. Well, it might. Oh, it might reach. I could be wrong. This is one of those cases where you gotta also do the wire management kind of last. You just gotta figure out where you want to put everything, and then basically then start tying down. You don't want to start tying down before you figure this out, because this is a little bit longer case. You may have to use this grommet instead of underneath. It may not reach. I don't know. Let's see here. Let's put that up that way. It might reach. I like to try to go all one direction, just for simplicity purposes, but I don't know if this is going to reach. This is the front I/O. Yeah, the front I/O I don't think is going to reach. I still don't know what this is. It's a different connector. I don't know if that's SATA? No. Oh, this is USB-C. Okay. I was like, what? Where was this coming from? Okay. That's a USB-C connection. I don't know if we have that on the board. If we don't, then we'll have to just leave it disconnected. We'll take it out for now. Or I'll just get a card, add-in card, and put that in later. All right, so everything else we really don't need. We don't need any of these other cables except for the one that says CPU. So I don't know if this is coming in resolution-wise. There we go. This says CPU. You want to make sure that that one goes up into this upper corner over here, way up this direction into that corner, because that's basically where that connection is on the board. So I'm just gonna take that out, get it detangled. I probably should have better bought a different power supply that had a little longer cables, honestly. I feel like this one is kind of short for this unit, just so we have a little more room. Like right now, this is kind of not the best design for that. By the way, also, if you have SSDs or mechanical drives, these brackets, you can mount them to it. You just take the screw off and then it slides off the panel, and you can screw from underneath the drive to connect this here. And then you can run your cables through to the motherboard on the other side. Power obviously would come up from the bottom. We're not using any of that though, so all of that is just gonna get raveled up, and I'm just not gonna tie it up right now. I'm just gonna kind of jam it in there so it's out of my way at the bottom. And I'm gonna flip this back over, put all the connections in, and go on, move on. Oh God, I'm already banging this thing around, that's so bad. All right. Oh, luckily it's one of our builds. Okay. So, oh, yeah. All right. Now, looking at this, oh, it might reach. Okay, so first off, let's connect the ones that we know are definitely going to reach, which is the power here for the board. 24-pin power. Just curl it up and connect it straight in. This is so much harder to do downwards than it is upwards. Okay, there we go. And then we're going to connect up the upper top corner, the CPU 8-pin connection that's up here, into the 8-pin that's on the motherboard in the upper corner. And of course, the stupid RGB fans, the power line, the lines are in my way. This is why I don't like extra cables in a case when we don't need it. But, you know, we got to be fancy. All right. I don't know if this cable's gonna reach enough. I just bent down a little bit. All right. Oh, come on, turn. Yeah, you may want to get a power supply with a little longer cables. This one is just barely reaching, if it even reaches. Or you get extensions to put on this thing. They do have they do sell extensions for power cords. I try to get them from main manufacturers that we know that are good, or cable, you know, like Cable Mods or something like that, or whatever. You know, just try to get something good. That's not a, you know, cable problem. You know, don't try to do it yourself to make extension cables or anything like that. You can get sleeve cables. You can get some nice stuff. If I can see what I'm doing, that would be great. All right, I'm gonna have to move this stuff around a little bit and get this into the corner. Yeah. Come on. This connection is really tight. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. I'm gonna have to turn the whole case. Sorry guys, this is not gonna look good on camera. I apologize. It's just not the way it works. Did I separate these guys? Straight way. Yeah. Oh, this This is so horrible. I can't see. Black on black on black is impossible to see. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of light. Get some light on. I don't have a flashlight today. So studio light will do. Mini portable studio light, can't beat that. Why are these separating? There we go. Okay, just me being dumb. There we go, got it. And hit that off. All right, so that's plugged in. Now we're gonna get the bottom portion. That's the harder part anyway. The other ones are easy. So I'm gonna just change this back here a little bit. Probably put the mat back a little. All right. And I'm gonna turn this back to the right position and change the coloring here. There we go. All right, so the front panel connectors, as I showed you guys before when I had the motherboard out of the case, they're very small, but they are labeled, and we can just basically plug them in the respected spots. The LEDs are the ones that actually are positive, negative. So you're gonna make sure that the positive plugs into positive, negative plugs into negative, and they will light up working fine. Now, if they don't light up working fine, then you either plug them into the wrong spot or you plug them in the wrong direction. The switches do not matter. So like your power switch, your reset switch, that's not gonna make a difference. Let me just plug everything in. Where's reset? That's power. That's reset. Yeah, they're labeled plus negative for the reset switch. It doesn't really matter. I don't know why they labeled it, honestly, because it works just the same way. It just closes the circuit. So, but the LEDs do make a difference because it's a light, and if you know anything about electricity, you'll know why that works that way. If I plugged it in, wow. I think having the overhead light is worse. Just it's driving me nuts. There we go. All right, just basically plugging the USB 3.0. I'm plugging in 2.0. It only goes into one spot, so if you're plugging in the wrong one, you're probably bending pins or it's not working right. Front audio is also being plugged in, even if we're not going to use it. USB, where's my USB? Where's my USB? USB 2.0. Did I not grab it? I did not grab it. Where are you? Ugh, great. Sorry guys, this is a real mess here. Was there 2.0? Maybe there isn't 2.0. Oh, there is no 2.0. Well, that would be the reason why I'm looking for something that doesn't exist. All right, so that's good. That's connected. I don't know where to plug this one into because I don't see a connector for it. So I don't think this board supports USB-C through a cable. May have to reference the motherboard manual just to be sure if that's correct or not, but it looks like I'm pretty sure it doesn't have it because I'm looking for, it looks kind of like a SATA connection here, except it has like a special black insert that it looks like is not here. So I don't see that on the board, and it is not here. So, well, that sucks. We can't use that, but we can get an add-in card and throw it in there, and that'll make that port in the front here work, this USB-C. Not every motherboard has it, unfortunately. So, moving on. Was there a fan controller on the back? There was no fan controller, was there? Let's see. Fans are next. And I should have probably had it the other direction for this. Oh, Lord. All right. What do they do here? Oh. All right. That's one way to do it. Okay, so let me show you guys what I'm talking about here, and I'm not just, you guys aren't just looking at the top of the case here. All right, so what they did was they connected the fans together. So it's all one connection, one solid connection. One solid connection. So all the fans here are connected together in the front with the fan that's supposedly up here. That's not the fan. Another one has to connect into this, which then connects directly to the motherboard. So I gotta connect the other fan up. That's from the back, and then connect it to the motherboard somewhere where it makes most sense. That wire fell in, didn't it? I hate RGB, I really do. And then there's another connection here that obviously connects the RGB portion, which is like a weirder connector. This is like an ASUS connector, like a AOR's connector here. That connects to the motherboard to give you control over the lights. This is just the power for the fan to actually make the fan work like it should. And then this fan connector goes to the board, which is just the male side of that. Yeah, this is why I need to put the case upwards, so I could get both sides of the case. I can't get both sides. So you're just connecting it directly to the board. Both connections are going down to the board. The RGB portion of it is that's why they give you another cable. They give you another cable for that to extend that off so it connects into the board properly. What did they do here? Oh, it's just another easy chain off a chain. Oh, the hell, we have enough wire here? What did they? Sorry guys, bear with me for 1 second when I just untangle a wire that's stuck from manufacturing. This is poorly laid out. I don't like that this is laid out, honestly. That should plug into here. Okay, oh, okay, so there's enough cable, it's just... Wow, okay, so if you didn't have a top fan connector, you'd be out of luck. Actually, no, it could reach the main part of the board. Okay, so this is tricky. Let me get the extender. It did come with an extender. Where did that extender go? There it is. It did come with a little extender that I'm going to put off for the RGB and then connect that straight to the board. Wow. That's a lot of cabling for something that literally I feel like should not be this complicated. Huh. That doesn't plug in that way. What the hell do they do here? Oh, it's a male. Bear with me guys, just for 1 second. Okay, the RGB on the board is a male connector, and they do give you a female connector on this side. And they have a male connector on the other side. So then this goes this way. And it has to line up. The pin, there's only one way the pins go in. There's only 3 pins in this stupid thing. As long as they connect the same way, it should connect to the same way on the board. I'm going to connect these kind of crappy looking just to make sure that it work first, because I am not 100% sure. And this is a little odd to me because this one has only 3 pins on the board, yet the board has 4 pins. It's a little odd. I don't think you can even take that out. Yeah, it's only 3 pins. Huh. Well, that was fun. I don't think it's compatible with this board, the RGB. I thought it was. Bear with me for a second, guys. I'm gonna look up the board really quick. It has RGB header, yep. RGB headers on the top, but that's a 4-pin. These fans have 4 pins, but one of them's knocked out. I don't know if we can plug that in straight. I hate RGB. I don't know if we can get this thing out. No, it doesn't come out. That's 3. That's 3. Does this line up? It does line up. All right, well, you know, we're gonna err on the side of not wanting to mess with that. I don't want to bend any pins and break something that just for RGB to work. Let's get the fans to work. How about that? We'll get the fans to work. The fans are just the regular 3-pin connector, 4-pin connector, I'm sorry, and that is going straight down to the motherboard. Any of the chassis fan connectors you could plug it into. You don't have to plug it into any specific one, just as long as it's plugged into the one that says any chassis fan. So if there's ones that are for like the CPU, you don't want the CPU, you want the ones that are obviously for the one that is direct. So we're gonna skip the RGB for now. I'm gonna unplug that. I have to double check to see how that works because there's no controller here either. Or I'm looking in the wrong spot, which the motherboard manual, whatever. It has the diagram marked RGB header at the top. And it's a 4-pin, not a 3. But it lines up, which is weird. There's a knockout on this cable, which is no good. All right, let's get the fans working at least. Let me plug in the fans and we'll at least get it operational, and then I'll worry about RGB later. RGB is not the most important thing right now. It is important, but it's not that important. We will get it just operational, and then we'll do cable ties later and stuff. More importantly right now, just gotta get the fans plugged in so that they turn on. And they're just you know, connected to each other, so they have like little male-female connectors on them, so you don't have to have like multiple connections down to the board. You just have one cable going down to the board. It is kind of convenient that way, but I'm kind of annoyed at the RGB on this. But then again, every product that I've ever had with RGB has been always a nightmare. I'm kind of glad that businesses don't care about it. Because that's what we usually do, is business to business, so we don't have to really worry about this. But for personal use, it's kind of nice if and when it works correctly, and you don't have 1.5 billion problems with pinouts and other issues. So that's it for that right now. Let me see if I need to plug anything else in. I don't think I do. Yeah, that's it for this. So I'm gonna try to move that out of the way. Let's switch over to connecting up the actual computer itself. Oh, I'm gonna plug in the keyboard, mouse, power, everything, plug it in. This board has HDMI, VGA, and DVI. Luckily, we're only using HDMI, so it should be no problem. Keyboard and mouse I don't have over here. I have over here behind me. You just grab a keyboard and mouse. Keyboard, way too complicated keyboard for this. It's too nice. All right. So I'm going to show the BIOS screen. We're going to boot into the BIOS. We're going to load up Windows 11 really quick. And go from there. So Did I put the mouse in? No, I did not. Put the mouse in. We're going to update the BIOS because obviously the BIOS probably needs an update at this point. I don't think it's on the most current one. Usually isn't. Sorry about the view here, guys. Usually this case is a little smaller and you can actually see me, but today is a little bit different. All right, let's power it on. Let's switch over to here, and power on. Nice and quiet. All right, no RGB in the fans, obviously, but the fans are kicking on. Let me go into the BIOS. AMD takes a little longer to boot the first time around, so don't be alarmed. That is normal. It requires more memory training, so it will take a little longer to boot the first time around. You have to just be patient. Fans will ramp up and down. This is normal. Anytime now. Yeah, that's the second reboot. There we go. All right, so we're going to jump into the BIOS. The BIOS is basically going to bring you into easy mode. Oh, let me bring this up so I can actually read it. There we go. It's going to give you a quick breakdown. On the easy mode, you're going to have things like BIOS version. Can I move the mouse around here? Yeah. So you got a BIOS version, your processor, your speed of your processor, your RAM that's installed, which sockets is installed in, which, you know, that's obviously important. You're going to see your chassis fan speed, your CPU fan speed, your curves. This is all nice. It's simple. If you don't want to go any further than that, you don't have to. I go to the advanced mode because I want to turn on more fun stuff, and give a little bit better performance. So what we're also going to do is update the BIOS. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop in the flash drive that I have the BIOS on. This is obviously downloadable from the web. I just look up the model number of the motherboard, and the BIOSes are available there. So before you actually do anything with the BIOS, make sure that your temperature of your CPU and motherboard are in a good standing temperature, which in this case it is. 39C is perfectly fine. 27C for the motherboard is perfectly fine. If your temperatures are running away, like they're going extremely high really quickly, then you have mounted something wrong, or your CPU might be mounted wrong. You don't want to update the BIOS when you have something wrong with the system. You want to update the BIOS when the system is running properly so it doesn't freeze on you. Because if you freeze during a BIOS update and you don't have a recovery BIOS, you will end up bricking your motherboard, and your motherboard will be worth nothing. You could try sending it back to the manufacturer. They may do something for you, they may not. They don't have to because you damaged it yourself. So just be careful if you're going to do this on your own. I'm going to go over to Tool. I went to Advanced, by the way. I just went to F7 to go to Advanced, and I want to flash the BIOS. So we're going to do ASUS Easy Flash 3 utility. It's going to find the drive that I have in here, which is awesome. It found it. It's going to ask you where the file is. In this case, it's this file. How do I know this? Because I downloaded it from the web already ahead of time, and I already put it on this flash drive, so I know what the file is. So I'm going to click that. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Yes. It'll then ask you, are you sure again, or do you want to update your BIOS? You're now going to 224.23 for revision 4002. So you just say yes. It should start in the bottom. Yeah, it says in the bottom. I can't see over this. Sorry, guys. So it's processing. During this time, you do not want to push the power button. You do not want to kick the power button out or have a lightning strike or something. Make sure that you're on a UPS battery before you do this, because you want to make sure that you have constant power during this entire write operation. This is the most sensitive time. So if you have a power outage, if your CPU overheats or whatever, and the machine shuts off, you can brick your motherboard, and that will be really a bad day for you. You'll have to take apart this whole thing and take the board out just to have that work. So a little word of advice, have it backed up on a battery just in case. These fans are kicking a lot of air. Holy crap. I don't know if you guys can hear this airflow that's coming through, but this is a lot of air. It's good. Okay, it's processing. It's still processing. Yeah, it may take about 2-3 minutes. Once it completes, it's going to reboot again. That is normal. Obviously, leave the USB flash disk in during this entire time. Do not take the flash disk out. Flash drive, I mean. The USB flash drive. You don't want to take that drive out until it fully finishes. Let's update. Still processing. Some motherboards are faster than others. It's just going to take some time. This board also has flashback operations. Flashback operations just basically means that when you have a bad BIOS load, you could try to reload it using a USB flash drive and the button on the back of the motherboard. There is a button on the back near the I/O shield where you can push, will allow you to do the flashback. Every motherboard's a little bit different. If you have to get down to that scenario, like something went wrong or the machine won't boot because it doesn't have the most current BIOS, you can then flash it back using that button and that sequence. Boot once or twice. No, it really doesn't. You really don't do twice. It either boots once or it doesn't, or it's gonna crash. This is one of those irreversible operations. You really don't want to mess with this too much. You want to make sure it's correct and done right the first time. Now, if you didn't really have any BIOS changes since then and the BIOS is working, you don't have to do this BIOS update. You only have to do this BIOS update if, first of all, if there is an update. And then second of all, you only have to do this if there's some changes to here that will actually, warrant those changes. I like to do this because at every brand new machine that we do, I like to make sure we have the most current, up-to-date patch system before it goes into place. Because once a machine goes into production, the only time we really take it down is for cleanings or for other maintenance operations. And during those maintenance operations, we'll check for any BIOS. But those maintenance operations may not be for like 1 or 2 years, because once you have a desktop, you should clean it out every year, but not everybody does. So you may end up doing that at a later time. And you may be waiting off on that BIOS update for a while. Now, if there's a big security patch to a BIOS update, I recommend you do it ASAP, because obviously that is controlling your entire system. So if a hacker or something was able to get into your BIOS, they would have full control with administrative privileges. It would just go right over it with no problem, because it's directly on the board. All right, so it says system will be reset. Okay. During the reset, it may do another memory training. If it does a memory training, you're going to have it do another refresh. It's going to cycle the fans. It'll do some weird, funny stuff. That is okay. Just let it go. You're going to have a black screen for a little bit. This is normal. Just wait it out. Do not turn off the power. Just wait until you get a screen. You will get a screen saying ASUS or whatever. You go back into the BIOS. And at this point, I'm going to go back to F7. F7? File function F7. There we go. And I'm just going to quickly check over a few things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check security first. No, it's not in there. Okay, never mind. I'm going to go over... Usually it's okay to leave everything on auto. Auto is probably safer. If you want to overclock, you can do that. This processor is not really made for that. Since we're loading Windows 11, I got to make sure FTPM is on, which is the TPM module. You want to make sure it's on enable. That's fine. Erase. No, that's fine. Going back. CPU. I'm using the arrow keys just for simplicity purposes, but you can use a mouse also. Just scroll down, look for everything, make sure everything's pretty much on auto. You should be okay if everything's on auto. You could also do the Q fan configuration. I'm going to turn this down a little bit because this is way high. It's on standard. I'd rather have it silent. There, it just kicked down a little bit. The sounds are a little bit less. Boot configuration. I would just leave everything the same. Don't mess with all this stuff. Secure boot has to be on. It's going to be Windows UEFI mode. Yes. You want to set this before you load the operating system, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a real problem. You will have a hard time resetting it later. So just select the flash drive that you want to boot off of. You're going to disable all the rest. All the rest of them are not going to be booting from, just so you're forcing one direction. Go over, save changes, and reset. Hit enter, enter. Now, if you have I already have a bootable Windows 11 disk, so I'm just going to go right off of that. That's a flash drive. It's on the same flash drive as the BIOS. I also loaded the drivers on there as well, so we have everything on just one flash drive. It makes it really simple. I do have now when I said you needed 2 flash drives was because the other flash drive, I have memtest on there. I'm not going to run memtest right now. I usually do, but it is like literally an overnight thing. It takes a long time to run, so we're just going to skip it for right now, but I'm going to probably rerun that once I'm done. This is just the basic Windows 11 setup. Now, the disk I made allows me to skip the Microsoft stupid account crap. So we will have another video on how to make that disk. So if you guys are interested in doing that, not having to use a Microsoft account, you can make a USB flash drive that allows you to do that. You'll also have to be disconnected from the internet. I am not going to put a product key in right now because obviously I'm live. This product key would be registered to this unit and I don't want to give that out. So we're just going to say I don't have one. I'm going to choose Windows 11 Pro, which is the one key that I'm going to be loading. Hit next. Does not meet the system requirements. So I probably missed secure boot. So if you get to this screen, you know that you made a mistake. You either go back to the BIOS. I hate this. It's a little part about Windows 11 which I really can't stand. Some motherboards turn all the features on for you that are default, and some are a pain like this one, which is just going to basically make me have to go to the BIOS to find it. Which one I missed. By the way, I'm hitting delete on the keyboard just to go to the BIOS, if you're wondering how I got in there. Come on. I thought I turned this on. All right. I don't know if easy mode had it. Q fan, boot menu. No, it doesn't have it here. So I'm gonna go to advanced again. I'm gonna check for all the features to make sure we have them all on. No. I mistrusted computing. Security device support, yes, enabled. TPM 2.0 device found, okay. This should be all, this is fine. We could disable this, but we don't want to keep changing that. Firmware. It's kind of, we're not using BitLocker. Discrete or regular firmware DP. This is new. No, I want firmware. Firmware is the one that's basically built into, I think, the processor. We don't need this erase. I think it keeps erasing the TPM when it boots, which is not what I want. I just want it just erase once. TPM is new for Windows 11. It's rather annoying. It's also it is more secure. I keep saying it's more annoying because it's just another thing we have to do, but it is more secure. It does allow you to use BitLocker and a bunch of other stuff more securely if you want to use that. I'm just turning off some of the junk we don't really need. I kind of just wanted to try to boot in, but obviously that's just too complicated for this board. So we have to go through everything. Network stack. I think I've got it right this time. AMD overclocking. No, we don't want that. Monitor boot. Secure boot. Windows UEFI. Key management. All right, I'm just installing the default keys. Maybe it just didn't do that, which would be weird. UEFI only. Why was this on both network devices? Nor. Yeah, okay. These defaults for this BIOS are kind of horrible. I've had much better BIOSes that just kind of go through. Gigabyte was one of the better ones, actually. ASUS seems like this is really complicated for something that shouldn't be this complicated. Kind of a little disappointed. But, hey, we got through it. Let's see if it Windows 11 now loads up and see if we got something good out of that. Rebooting is still taking a while. All right. All right, take two. Let's see if it goes. Next, install. Don't have a product key. Windows 11 Pro. There we go. Okay, accept. I'm gonna do custom. I don't like doing upgrade. I'm just do custom. I'm gonna just select the whole hard drive, but if you have multiple drives, you'll want to disconnect those drives before you continue doing this, just to make sure that you're not overwriting a drive that you need. In this case, it's a fresh machine, so it's really easy. This is also a one drive setup. I may add a second drive in here at some point for data. I usually do. I usually like to leave the operating system separate from my data drive when I'm using a system for myself. That just makes it easier for me if I need to reload Windows or something like that. I know I can blow away C drive and not have to worry about it. At this point, while this is loading, I'm just checking things like the power light, making sure that's working, making sure the hard drive light is working, which it is. It's blinking. It should be blinking. Power light should be always on. I make sure, just looking through a lot of other things, make sure there's no cables interrupting things, making sure the fans are all working. If there's no fans though, you know, obviously if a fan's not working, I would check cables again. You probably missed a cable somewhere and reconnect it. The RGB doesn't work here, unfortunately. I don't know why. This connector is so weird. Just looking at the motherboard manual just to see what they say. I think it's the case that's the problem. Maybe these case fans are only like specific to Thermaltake's thing. Let me, oh, it's restarting, okay. Let's restart. If you don't want to sign up a Microsoft account, you want to make sure you're not connected to the internet. And you'll also want to make sure that you make the disk a little differently so it doesn't ask you to connect to the internet. It'll allow you to bypass it and make a local account. Local accounts are better just because they're not as tracked. They're just, you know, it's also not complicated. You can make your own password. You can make it very simple. It's a simpler setup. The Microsoft account, of course, Microsoft wants you to try to make an account because it wants to try to track your telemetry and a whole bunch of other junk. Honestly, the local account's easier. And it's also easier for if you need to like set up networking or something else. It doesn't require very complicated methods to do that. Now it says getting ready. What it's going to do is it's going to try to identify your motherboard. It's going to try to identify some drivers like your graphic card driver. Because the new setup, when you get into it, it is more visual. So it does require the graphic card to be working already. If it ever goes. This is a little longer process than Windows 10. Windows 10 was a little shorter. But Windows 11 does perform better. It does seem to use a lot more of the processing power. It does seem to use a lot more of the RAM more efficiently and stuff like that. Still getting ready, okay. While that's getting ready, I'm going to look at this RGB garbage and try to figure this out. By the way, RGB is, it's optional. You know what I mean? Like, it's just colorful. The fans will still work without the RGB. You know, the RGB setup is just a little more complicated, I think. The motherboard has ASUS Aorta Sync, and then the one from Thermaltake, which is the case manufacturer, has what? It's still loading. Okay. I'll look up the case, because the case obviously is part of the problem. How do we get that to a 4-pin? RGB, 4-pin. All right, I think I'm, oh, okay. So we got to the setup. It's going to ask you for your region. You choose your region. I'm going to choose United States because that's where I'm at. It's going to ask you about your keyboard, US. It asks you if you want to add a second keyboard, which is weird. No. Skip. It's going to say, hey, do you want internet? I'm just going to say, no, I don't have internet. That's a lie. Continue with limited setup. That's the one I want. And that's going to give you your regular boring login. So I'm just going to put Brian. And it asks for a password. I'm just going to leave it empty for now, just so it's easy to go through. But you probably should choose a password. I don't know why the RGB lights on this thing is weird. CT on 40s. RGB connect to Aorus. Oh, it's Aurora. That's right. Aurora Sync. And yeah, it says it's Aorta Sync compatible. I must be doing something wrong. I have to be using the wrong connector, or I'm not finding the right, or I'm supposed to block out that pin. But that would be weird. Okay, let me move a little bit of this stuff around so I can actually get to the operating system here. Okay, I can't see anything. Okay. This case is huge, man. I can't see garbage. All right. So, after you load it up, obviously everything is incorrect, so we gotta check the time zone first. Do that first. Get the time zone correct. If you don't get your time zone correct, you're gonna regret that later. SSL sites, or if you go to visit any site, it's going to end up all probably screwed up if your time zone are not correct. You're not going to get proper information. Now I'm not connected to the internet, so it's not picking up the proper time yet. I'm going to connect the internet at this point because obviously I want to go forward here. So I'm just plugging an Ethernet cable in. That's all I'm doing. It will eventually sync up. I like to go right to power options. I like to put this right to high performance just so that everything else seems to run better on that. I don't want to turn off my hard disks because they're not spinning Rust. There's no need for that. Hibernation, no. USB, most of these are correct. I just kind of look through them really fast. Display, I don't like it 15 minutes, I like 25, just so it saves some power. That time, close. Now, this is a new thing. The Armory Crate software tries to install every time. That is a BIOS feature that has to be turned off. So I'm going to say no right now. I have to go back to the BIOS. It's going to keep popping up on me if I don't do it. I like to also try to just load Windows updates really quickly before I even do drivers, just to be sure we got everything kind of in place. I have a folder called drivers on my flash drive, which I'm just going to cut that, put that in. Darn it. I loaded a new graphic card driver. Give it a sec. There we go. And I'm just going to take this drivers folder and I'm going to move it over to C drive, make a new folder. You can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it V1 for us. Put all my drivers all over there. I already downloaded the drivers from the website, so should be no problem. Let that install. I'm going to start extracting all of these. If you don't want to do the Armory Crate, you don't have to. If you go into the BIOS, you can disable it. I'm going to do it right now because we obviously have RGB control. It's going to want to have that on for that to work, if and when we get it to work. Let me extract all the rest of the drivers. But normally, you don't. If you don't want it, you don't have to load it. It is a waste of RAM. So it will take up RAM, and if you are very limited on RAM, you will have a problem with that. It doesn't take up much, but it does take up enough to be kind of annoying for something that you may or may not even use. In the background, if you noticed, everything in here is installing. It's just installing all the updates. There are more updates. Even if you download the most newest Windows 11, which I did, you're still going to have some patches because they're, every system's a little different. It's going to definitely show up with a few different things. Is that actually 5.11? Yeah, it's 5.11. 4.15? Yeah. Okay. Security-wise, we don't need this. We don't need that. That's if you want to do a Microsoft account. They try to force you to do a Microsoft account through this whole thing. It gets really annoying. All right, we'll let that download and install really quick. And then we're going to basically do the drivers next. Actually, we can do the drivers now. We'll put the Armory Crate in first. Just to show you what the Armory Crate does, it does also, I think it also does drivers for virtual pet, really? Yeah, just the regular crate. I don't know what that is. You're welcome to download anything else you want if you want other stuff. I just want control of the board, really. That's really what it comes down to. Audio drivers. Do everything just one at a time. It's pretty much just find the setup file, run the setup file, hit next, next, next. Don't let it reboot unless you want to go one at a time. I personally want to do all of them and then do one reboot. It's just faster. So when it asks you to restart, just say no. Go back, do your chipset. Armory Crate, ugh. It's Flashy software. LAN. This may disconnect your updates in the background, make it disconnected during this time. That's okay, it'll just continue where it left off. VGA, same thing, Zeus setup. You could do setup or a Zeus setup, whichever you prefer. Either one runs the same way. It's the same, it just executes one over the other. There's no difference, I understand, yes. Ugh, I don't even know if I really wanted to put Armory in. I feel like it's kind of stupid. I don't like the AMD drivers. It gives you the option of putting the power management support. I don't do that. I just do the regular stuff because there's nothing really necessary for the power management. It just installs like a power utility, and that power utility makes it kind of like a different power saving mode that I really don't like. But you could, you know, you can install it and try it out. I just don't like it. I think it puts the computer in too low of power. And since this machine's really like, most of the time it's running off a remote desktop, so we don't want it to go into power saver. You know, and I don't want it to like drop down whenever I'm like running a program or installing something. I just want it to be full power all the time, pretty much, or at least as much as it can. Chipset's done. We didn't do graphics yet. And then I got my little bit of code to remove all the bloatware. We'll have another video on this from Windows 11, by the way, for the new removal script. The new removal script will be a little bit better for just generated just directly for Windows 11. It'll remove all the junk that's in the system. By the way, this flashing of the black screen, this is just the graphic card driver going in and out. That's fine. Let's go back to here. We'll just hit finish for now. Oh, that one got messed up. All right. We're going to do a reboot really quick because it says it's still installed, so it's the time to do it. Just hit the power button, hit restart. It'll take a minute. It's going to update some of Windows. It's going to load the new drivers. At least they give you a percentage this time around. At this point, you can remove the USB flash drive. You don't need that. If you're going to go test the RAM, I would probably test the RAM at this point before you go any further. You probably should have tested the RAM before you loaded the operating system. I'm not doing XMP right now. I'm going to probably turn on XMP later. That's why I'm going to test the RAM. But again, that test literally will take maybe a whole day to go through. It's not a short test. It has to go and run, I think, 10 times before it actually goes correctly. It cycles the RAM 10 times in the memory test. I might just show you guys how to do it, but it's not something you want to sit there and watch. It's not that fantastic to watch. You just let it run and it gives you a report back at the end if it fails or not. It's more pass fail. Just to make sure your RAM is good. Installing the rest of the updates. I don't know if it installed Armory. It's still loading junk. Let's see what it loads. Why? It's weird. All right, let's go to B1. Okay, after that's done, I'm going to just remove the bloatware. So we're going to run our script. We're going to open up Windows PowerShell. Actually, before I do that, I want to show you what junk it's going to remove. So if we right-click here on Start and click on Installed Apps, you're going to see a bunch of stuff installed. I mean, like Feedback Hub, Maps. Like, I don't need any of this stuff. I don't need Microsoft News. You know, to-do lists, Windows and like movies and TV. This is a business machine, I'm not going to need any of this, including Office. This Office is actually a trial version, which it installs automatically, which confuses people. You know, and everything else that I really don't need in here, Xbox and all this garbage. I'm not doing anything with that. So to get rid of all that lovely garbage, I opened up PowerShell. So to do that, I just typed start, I typed in Windows PowerShell. I ran it as an administrator, and then it pops up like this. I'm going to change to that folder. And I'm going to go to drivers and Windows 11 remove bloatware. I'm going to type out my directions. I'm going to run this little command that will allow me to run my PowerShell script correctly. Say all. And then I'm going to run my PowerShell script, which is ampersand remove bloatware. And this basically will remove all that junk, because we all know we don't want bloatware. So it's going to remove like Clipchamp, Xbox. You see like it's just popping through these things, Zoom Music. What the hell is a Zoom? Communication apps, a whole bunch of other shit. After it's removed, it's going to say, hey, reboot to do whatever. We're not going to reboot right now. We're just going to leave it, but it just says complete. It may also output some errors. That's okay. If it outputs errors, that just means it's not in the system at the current time. So you'll be fine. Hit exit at this point, and if you go back to your installed apps, you're going to see a lot less. The only thing that you see, all the Xbox stuff is gone. By the way, some of those things you can't remove with just in here. That's the reason why you need that PowerShell script to do it. The PowerShell script will remove everything that's there. OneDrive is like one of the worst ones. It just never gets rid of OneDrive. Even if I say to get rid of OneDrive, it still comes back like a ghost. It's haunted. But everything else should be nicely trimmed up. And if you notice, the bottom is kind of trimmed up. Now, the start menu, it doesn't get rid of these icons. You have to get rid of these icons yourself. It says uninstall, but it's not actually installed. It's just an icon. So just hit uninstall. It'll remove it from the icon list, you know, if you don't want it. You know, all this stuff is like just junk. Apple does the same thing. They install a whole bunch of crap that you just don't need. It just takes up memory and space, and really, you know, you really need to keep your stuff tuned out. Now, I'm not a big fan of Edge, so the first thing I do is I download Firefox, but you're welcome to use Chrome if you want. If you want Chrome, you just go to google.com/Chrome, and you can download it that way if you want. I'm going to download both. I just prefer Firefox, though. Oh, my screen is in the way. There we go. Open up Firefox. Let it install. I'm going to do Chrome also. This is a development machine. That's why I'm putting Chrome and Firefox on it. It's to test certain websites and stuff. So I need both anyway. I have no choice, but I'm not going to help them let them download all that junk. We're just going to install what we need. You don't have to wait for one over the other. Just let it go. And we don't need Edge anymore. Could take Edge out, unpin it, ditch it. If you guys prefer Edge, you can use Edge too. I just, you know, Edge is the same as Chrome anyway, because it uses Chromium to actually display pages. So you're going to get the same effect. That's the reason why I don't bother with it. Chrome we're going to close. Firefox we're going to reopen. I'm going to set it in my default browser, yes. Again, you can choose whichever one you want. I'm going to unpin Chrome for now. I don't know why the Chrome icon doesn't come up correctly on 11. When it pins, it just doesn't pin to the taskbar correctly. It's a little glitch. I think that's on Chrome's side though. I don't want widgets, I don't want chat, I don't want search. That's all. Now I'm down to like barely anything down here. Taskbar, I kind of like left more than center, but you could choose any which way you want. I'm going to put it back to center just for the hell of it, but you could put it either way. I'm just going to keep it on center because I can't see over there right now. That's really what it comes down to. We're almost done. Yes, we're almost there. That's it basically. I mean, the system's already reloaded. I can't get the RGB to go. I'm going to have to figure out what is wrong with the actual RGB controller here. What's weird is this cable. So let's just count it. On this cable, I'm not sure if you can see this on here, but this cable has 3 pins. This side has 4 pins, but it has one blocked out. And the problem with this being blocked out is that the motherboard actually has 4 pins. So I don't know if we can get this thing to pop out with it, or if this is the wrong connector for the wrong thing, and that's why they have the pin knocked out. It's a little odd to me, but it should work with this. So yeah, this is going to be another day of me contacting ASUS and figuring out if we really need to deal with this. Personally speaking, I don't really care about the RGB that much, but you know, it's already here. I feel like if I have everything here, it should probably work. I just don't know how to connect it to this board correctly. And I don't want to connect it, since this is something that requires power, you don't want to make a mistake by connecting to the wrong thing here. Especially if, you know, especially if you are connecting something that has power that's directional. You don't want to have that directional power connected in wrong and then, you know, chance breaking a fan because you just wanted color. You know, in my opinion, I would just leave it off and then figure out the proper cable to put on here. I don't know why it didn't come with another cable. No, it didn't come with another cable. Yeah, no other cables, so there's that. I mean, worst case, you can always get a different type of transfer cable here, and then, you know, get one that has 4 pins on it. It just seems dumb to buy a cable that should come provided from freaking Thermaltake. This is really a Thermaltake issue because I don't know why they're blocking this pin. Anyway, all right, so this is basically updating the rest of it. So this is a quick, you know, quick way of installing everything. After I figure out this color issue, I mean, it'll probably just power up with no problem. Or you can buy a fan controller. But I feel like there should be a freaking connection on this board that just has 3 pins. But I don't see a 3-pin connector anywhere, so it must be that this 4th pin is doing nothing. And it is directional. It does have a like little arrow stating which way it's supposed to go. But yeah, the RGB on here has got 4. Typical RGB garbage. By the way, if you think this is confusing, this is only one setup that actually says it's supposed to work. CORSAIR is even more confusing because you get a hub and you have to match the hub with the fans, or you end up not having RGB at all. I'm just trying to see if there's another connector that I might have missed, but I don't see anything. Yeah. So that's about it. Yeah, everything's loaded up. There's not much more to really do here. Oh, it has the search bar again. Why is the search coming up? I thought I said no to the search. Hide. I don't want the search. All right. But that's the quick tutorial of how to put a system together. I guess, you know, if you're putting a system together yourself, I would definitely be a little more patient than I am about this whole RGB thing. But yeah, if you're going to do something like this, maybe buy a controller for it. That's the only thing that's negative about this board. Everything else is great about this board. It, you know, it works really good. I don't know why we're getting download errors. Maybe we already have the driver. Is this the wrong driver? Where's AMD? AMD Radeon. No. Oh, it's in the corner. This is not the newest driver. ASUS has got the wrong driver on their website. That's lovely. If you run into this, guys, you just got to go to AMD and get the right one. Just go to AMD.com. Downloads, drivers, download now. You can download the graphic card driver. It'll download the chipset as well. It'll auto detect and pick up the proper one. I don't know why ASUS has the wrong driver on their website. That's not like them to usually have the wrong one. Unless this just came out recently, but I think it's been on auto detect for a while. Yeah, if you guys have any errors in your device manager or anything like that, you know, just go back to the main manufacturer site. I mean, luckily there's nothing here, but the other one is detecting something weird in Windows updates. It wants to use the one from Microsoft. I don't want to use the one from Microsoft, honestly. I'd rather use the one from AMD. That is going to be the most current one. Anyways, guys, that's about it for the end of the stream. If you guys have any questions, sign off in the comments below. If you're watching this on replay, like, subscribe, do all those wonderful YouTube things you guys do. We will have more live streams and more updates on other videos that are coming up. We have a lot of Link stuff that's coming up still, and we still have a watch review, which I still got to get around to finally finishing. I'm still playing with the software, so that's about it. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.